Inside Boxing Daily on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Inside Boxing Daily is brought to you by, of course, the Retired Boxers Foundation with Jackie Richardson and Alex Ramos. You can find them on Facebook. And mybookie.ag, which will give you up to a 50% bonus, or up to a $1,000 bonus on 50% of what you put in. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. I want to welcome my other host. Should just call us co-hosts, since you can't have two hosts. But Jeremiah Preisser. How you doing, Jeremiah?
I'm good, Mike. I'm always good, man. Let's get this ball rolling.
All right. So it looks like the New York State Athletic Commission is not going to give Jarrell Big Bat Baby Miller a license to fight against Anthony Joshua. Now, that means they got to find somebody else for Joshua to fight. Adam Konatsky and Kubrat Pulev have both been ruled out as replacements. Where do you think this goes? Because Pulev's promoter, Bob Arum, said that he's still suspended because of his kissing incident after his recent victory over Bogdan Dino, or whatever the hell his name is. Pulev will have a hearing in mid-May. But I think this is, with Pulev, I think this is bullshit, because I think that Bob Arum is actually saving Pulev for Tyson Fury, who needs opponents.
Yeah, you could be right. I mean, it's hard to say what exactly direction they're going to go in. I mean, I've heard that John Ruiz. Jesus.
He might get a shot.
Honestly, you might as well at this point. I mean, I was, before I came on, I was looking at the options for on this day, and I saw John Ruiz stopping Frezzo Kendo back in like 2004. I mean, that tells you the level of idiocy that we're dealing with in regard to these, alphabet soup organizations. And it's all the WBA's fault. I mean, I can't even blame Frezzo Kendo. Frezzo Kendo, sued them and won in a court case, and that's why he's been in line for, what seems like a decade now. So, I can't blame him so much. He's just, waiting in the wings, and I don't know why he keeps getting, called up. But I actually like the suggestion made by John Einrenhofer on Twitter tonight, and he said that Anthony Joshua should do a George Foreman and fight Manuel Charr, Trevor Bryan, and Frezzo Kendo all in one night. I think that is a hell of a plan.
Wait a second.
I would love
Foreman
to see
fought
that
five guys in one night. That's only three.
Well, yeah, I mean, but still, I mean, that's something similar. I would love to see that. I think that would be a great way to go. Just, and that way, you're.
It would not be a great way to go, Jeremiah. It would just be in line with what we see in boxing.
Well, no, but I don't think so. I think because it's more of a circus type thing.
Yeah, that's what we see. That's all we see is circuses.
No, I know,
but
here's my thing: is do I want a one-off fight with Manuel Charr, or would I prefer 3 fights against these this level of opposition in a night? I don't know. I think that would do a bit for his prestige. Just again.
I don't think so, Jeremiah.
I think so.
I don't.
No, I do. I do, because George Foreman beat the 5 no-hopers in a night, and people still bring that crap up.
Yeah, because it was a joke, though.
Exactly. I mean, it's not like we're getting much else, anyways.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. What about a guy like Michael Hunter?
Yeah, that's a name that I saw tossed around too. I mean, at this point, I honestly don't care. Hunter's a good, scrappy guy. I mean, he was surprisingly competitive against Alexander Usyk. He has a strong amateur background. I think, I could be mistaken there, but I think he might have won a bronze medal in the Olympics.
2012, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I know he was pretty good. And again, just what he's been able to do since the Usyk fight has shown that he's a pretty skilled guy. He's a bit undersized at heavyweight. But he'll bring it. He's. I mean, I would prefer that over. I would prefer that over Manuel Charr or Frezzo Kendo at this point. But my hopes are not high. But I think that's a better option than some of them.
Yeah, and they've even thrown out the possibility of Joseph Parker getting a rematch at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if he's gonna, because it seems like all the bigger names have turned it down already. Konaki, Luis Ortiz is out. Like you said, Pulev is not an option, though of course, circumstances are a bit different. So, I mean, if they could make that happen, go for it, man. I mean,
what I want to know is this, though. Why would Luis Ortiz turn down this fight?
Well, I don't know the specific details. I don't know. I mean, maybe Luis Ortiz is. Ortiz is at a level where he can expect to get a fight and have a full training camp. A guy like Trevor Bryan is not.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking about fighting for the heavyweight championship of the world, partially. So when you look at that, why would anybody turn that opportunity down? I mean, this is April. We're in the middle of April. You wouldn't be fighting till June. You still have 5 or 6 weeks to get ready. If you're Dillian White, you're always running around flapping your gums. I mean, if he gets a chance, why wouldn't he do it? I don't understand this because
I've heard he would.
They're both going to make a ton of money. Whoever fights him is going to get paid really well. So why the hell would you not take this? Because the heavyweight division to me just seems a division full of guys that talk a lot of shit but do absolutely nothing. And it gets so old, and people are telling me, well, this is as good as the 90s. It's not. I mean, come on. When you're talking about Manuel Char or Freza Kendo possibly getting a shot at the title, this is nowhere near the 1990s. This is a joke.
Well, what's even worse is the fact that you have Trevor Bryan, Freza Kendo, and Manuel Char, each of which either own some sort of title, like some regular trinket or interim or, silver or whatever the hell it is, or used to. I mean, again, that shows you the level of where we've gone, just as a sport, and it's not a positive thing. I mean, I know there are some, who are like, oh, the belts mattered. They do to a degree, sure. Fighters like trophies, all athletes like trophies, but the rate we're moving here, it's just absurd, and somebody's got to come and pull back the reins. But yeah, I mean, either way, we're getting a crap fight. If White steps in, I heard that he's willing to. He's been in training camp, if I'm not mistaken. So if we get that, that's not a bad option. I can't be too mad at that if that comes off.
Yeah, I can't believe I would think that the fight could be worse than fighting Jarrell Miller, who I don't think a whole lot of anyways. So this whole thing has turned into a debacle. My question to you is this. If he fights a Freza Kendo or a Manuel Char or... I think what they should do is this. I think they ought to... Basically, this fight should be in Philadelphia at the Spectrum against some unknown white club fighter with a cool nickname. What do you think?
See, now you're thinking like a promoter, man, an old school promoter at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question is, Jesus, I'm sure there's something that exists now. I mean, there's got to be somebody around that, geographical area who fits the bill. Maybe some Italian guy with a cool nickname or something. I don't know. But I don't think
like
that's
Italian something. I don't know. Maybe the Italian stallion or something. Hell, Sylvester Stallone would have a better shot than Manuel Char.
Yeah, well, they might as well put Maris Breidis in if they're gonna. I mean, Breidis is obviously a better heavyweight than Char is. Shit, phone up if you got to go to the bullpen, go ahead. Call up one of the cruiserweights.
Usyk. Why not get Usyk? I mean, I know Usyk would say he hadn't had a heavyweight fight yet, but what the hell? You're gonna make $10 million if you're Usyk to fight in Madison Square Garden, and you'd get a crowd, and it's somebody that I would actually watch because I think that he has a chance, and it's not that I think he's going to be a great heavyweight or anything, but we don't know about him yet, at least. We know about all these other guys.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, the guys like Trevor Bryan and Char and whatnot, they've peaked, so there's little to no intrigue with those
Manuel
fights.
Char peaked? When was this?
Oh, I don't know. I think when he became the...
I think he peaked when he popped out of his mom's vagina. I think that's when he peaked. I think it's been all downhill since for Manuel Char.
Yeah, it's just been a rough road for that guy.
Yeah.
No, but you know how it is with modern promoters. They're not going to throw a guy like Usyk in there because they're just going to say there's not enough time to build it up. That's the state of things.
Yeah, but there's nothing here to build up. You can't build up Manuel Char against Anthony Joshua. What are we going to have a 24/7 Joshua Char?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think.
Oh, Jesus. That would be
Yeah,
great. I love
oh
those
yeah,
shows, too. I think that's one I wouldn't watch.
yeah. No, that would be. I think that'd be the only one well, besides Clarissa Shields and Hammer, that would be the
Why don't we
next
have
one.
Clarissa Shields fighting? She's top 10 pound for pound from what she says.
There you go, man.
There
Just
you
put
go.
on a.
Did
No,
you
but I
see
mean,
the video of her at the amateur boxing event that Michael Montero posted? Where
man,
her,
I have not.
you have it?
I caught part of it.
Oh,
I caught
man.
part of it.
It was bad. I mean, she is such a disgrace. I mean,
So
the fact that people are hanging women's boxing on her is really scary.
yeah, that's so. I started to watch some of the video, then I forget what happened. So what I saw was two fighters in the ring, and I think the guy in the red corner had his hand raised, and
Yeah,
then
and
they
his
went.
mom, I think it was his mom, was filming it. And she's saying, great job. And you got Clarissa Shields to the right. I guess her fighter was the guy that lost. And she's screaming all this stupid shit and trying to confront the mom. And she just has no class. It's my problem with Deontay Wilder. He has no class. Clarissa Shields has no class. There's so many guys here that wouldn't know class if it bit him in the ass. And you could sit here and you can tell me, well, Sugar Ray Robinson hit his wife and all this. And a bunch of people do a bunch of shit behind closed doors that we don't know what they do. But when you out in public make a general ass out of yourself, it's not good for boxing. And that seems to be what this is. Everybody is so excited to promote their fight now. There's nothing really to promote, so they have to act like complete insane assholes to try to get people to watch them fight.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I think Clarissa Shields and Adrian Broner and Deontay Wilder and a lot of other guys, I think they're just naturally assholes. So I think I don't think it's always so much as they're playing the role. They just are what they are. I mean, they just have moments of that's the thing is a lot of people are like, oh well, you watch Deontay Wilder and the 24/7s and the buildup and whatnot, and he's calm and whatnot. Okay. I mean, these things are a lot more complex than just saying, hey, a guy's nice when he's spending family time, out by the river in Alabama. I mean, you can still be a dick even if you're nice sometimes. I mean, and that's what I think. I think, Wilder is just, he's talking about, he's kind of renewing his thing about putting Brazil in a body bag or like if
Oh,
he kills
yeah.
him so what crap like that again Shields is and
You
that's
know
the thing
what?
is
And I made this comment to some dumbass on Facebook who's bragging about it, how this, if it happens, it happens. And I'm like, when this fight is over between him and Brazil, no matter what happens, they're going to hug each other and they're going to be best friends after it. It's all bullshit. And you know what? If Dominic Brazil said something about his sister or whatever the hell it was, if he was that mad, why wouldn't he just knock him the fuck out right now? I mean, he's standing right in front of you. If you're that pissed, just waste his ass right there. Because this is all horse shit. It's all made up. It was probably made up from the Brazil side or the Joshua side or the Wilder side to build a fight up like this anyways. I'm just sick of it. Guys need to fight each other. If you got to take a little bit less money to get Joshua in the ring, yeah, if you think you're going to win, do it, because in the end, you're going to make a hell of a lot more money.
yeah, it's all playtime, right? It's all playtime in the sandbox.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of grown men acting like general dumbasses, trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator. And the problem is this: if you look at boxing sites, you will see that boxing sites are full of the lowest common denominator. Hell, life now is full of the lowest common denominator. That's why you get what you get running for president. That's why you get guys in the NFL who are beating up pregnant girlfriends, but guys still give them standing ovations when they come on the field and wear their team's colors. I mean, it's pathetic the way society is today. And I think it's pathetic. I mean, in 1980, if there would have been somebody who had to pull out of a heavyweight title fight with 6 weeks to spare, I don't think they'd have had a hard time finding somebody to fight him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I think even in the 80s, guys were more professional in their demeanor, where they did this stuff more often than they do today,
How about
but because
this? In the early
TV
2000s, Jeremiah, Vitaly Klitschko took Kirk Johnson's place on 2 weeks' notice. Klitschko had no problem doing it, and Lennox Lewis had no problem fighting him. That would never happen now. The same thing now would be the equivalent of this. It would be all of a sudden Joshua needs an opponent, and Luis Ortiz says, yeah, I want to fight him. And, they fight. But that's not going to happen now because everybody has to have a freaking excuse on everything.
Yeah, well, again, I just think it's indicative of the way much of society has gone, where you just have a lot of people who are they just feel entitled, right? I mean, you had Gervonta Davis recently say that, I want to make $30 million before my daughter is 3 years old.
I thought you were going to say $30 million before he has to fight Lomachenko.
Right? Yeah. Well, I mean, he's probably expecting that too, but he wants to make $20 million before his daughter's 3 years old, and I'm like, what have you done to deserve anything like that kind of money? I mean, a fight with Lomachenko is not going to get you that kind of money. A fight with Burchelt, the best guy in your division, it's not going to get you anywhere near that amount of money. So I don't even know what the hell's up with a lot of these guys. I mean, it's called prize fighting. I understand that, but let's not take that term too literally. It also is a sport, and there's a fan aspect to it, and it's a complex endeavor. It's not just you go out and you just deserve money just because. But yeah, I mean, this is the way a lot of it is now. I mean, it's funny that guys like Adam Konecki just said no, and Luis Ortiz. I mean, again, it's hard to say where exactly they're at. But it would just be nice to see one of these guys step up and take the chance. But because, I mean, Anthony Joshua is not Lennox Lewis. I mean, he's a good fighter, but he's not Lennox Lewis. So there's not, just from my perspective, there's not as much to fear. But again, it just seems like by and large, you got a different breed of fighter here.
All right, and we got Joe Joyce has parted ways with Abel Sanchez and is now being trained by Adam Booth. What do you think caused that? You think maybe it's the fact that he said Joyce wasn't ready to step up yet after his last performance?
Well, I hope not. I mean, because that's the honest thing. I mean, that's the way all of us should feel, including Joyce. I mean, he's not ready. I mean, I wouldn't even put him against, Deontay Wilder at this point. I don't know. It's just he's slow as molasses. He's fairly easy to hit. He's got a good work rate. He's got good size and whatnot. But, there are just a lot of shortcomings there, and I think he should, work for a while to improve on them. I mean, I know he's not a young guy. He's, getting close to his mid-30s. But you want to iron out the kinks a little bit, before you get there if you can. But, I don't know exactly what this is all about. Maybe because Adam Booth is, in the UK and, maybe he just wants to go back home. I don't know. There's a lot of complexity surrounding this sort of stuff, so it's just hard to say.
Yeah, well, maybe he'll get a shot at Anthony Joshua then, because without Abel there, they'll probably throw him to the wolves. So, and it would be a safe fight for Joshua. I think fighting Joe Joyce would be damn near as safe as Manuel Char, believe it or not.
Yeah, I don't think Joyce is. I just don't think he's ready at this point. I think he would get stopped, fairly quickly. And again, Joshua really hasn't shown the capacity to stop, the top guys early, but Joyce, I just think Joshua's got about the same size. He's quicker, hits harder. I just think that's a bad styles matchup for Joyce.
All right, if you have nothing else to talk about, we'll talk about on this day. What do you got? Shane Mosley, John Brown?
Yeah, Shane Mosley versus John Brown, and of course, Mosley was the number one lightweight in the world at this point. Funny enough, I mean, a lot of people don't talk about it, but Shane Mosley, as much as I liked him at lightweight, was never the lightweight champion of the world. I don't think he ever fought his number two guy, ever. I'm trying to think, but yeah, I don't think he ever fought his. Well, it fluctuated. So I know I think when he first got there, I think Stevie Johnson was number two for 1 year. I know Nazarov, the southpaw from this former Soviet Union, I think he was number one for, 2 years in that span. I can't quite remember, but I do remember Stevie Johnson and Nazarov were both there around that time. Those were two fights that I really wish he would have taken. But I'd have to look it up to remember. It's all kind of fuzzy now.
Here's my question. If you're going to talk about Shane Mosley, he won the title against Philip Holliday, correct?
Yes.
Have you seen that fight?
I've seen everything Mosley's been in.
Okay, so was that fight as close as they scored it? Because I haven't seen the fight since it originally happened. But if I remember right, one of the judges had it like a 1 point win, and another one had it like a 2 point win. And from what I remember, Mosley won that fight pretty easily. I thought. Am I wrong there on my recollection, or?
No, I think you're right. Again, it's when you don't watch these things for a while, it gets a little bit fuzzy. But I think you're right. I mean, I remember having Mosley clearly ahead, but I remember Molina being, one of those crafty veteran guys who was
You mean
hanging
Holiday?
around. Yeah, Holiday. Sorry, what did I say?
Molina. He knocked out Molina later on.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, but Holiday, yeah, he had some experience under his belt, and he was pretty crafty. Again, more of a wily guy. But yeah, I remember having Mosley up clearly. I mean, and I think that was one of the few fights. No, I think Mosley was up clearly.
Yeah, but that was, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like one of the judges had it like a 1 point fight, and the other one had it a 2 point. The other one had it farther apart, but I don't remember how far apart.
Okay. Okay, so I'm looking at the rankings here. So in 1998, when Mosley first became, okay, so in let's see, in 96 was the first time he broke rank. Nope, actually 95. So him and Nazarov were number 1 and 2. He was number 2. So you had Nazarov, Mosley, and Stevie Johnson at 1, 2, and 3 in 1997. So that was obviously when Nazarov was on the out. So Mendy was number 2 in 1998. And then it looks like Mosley must have jumped up to welterweight or something in 1999. So, yeah, it doesn't look like he fought a top-ranked guy.
Yeah, was Mosley's first welterweight fight against Wilfredo Rivera?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was. Rivera wasn't a bad fighter, and he knocked him out. And then I think he fought one more time, and then you had the De La Hoya win.
Yeah, Willie Wise.
Yeah, the John Brown fight on this day. From what I remember, John Brown, wasn't he a short dude?
Yeah, very short.
Yeah, but he was a good fighter, and Mosley basically toyed with him. I think Brown may have won like the first or second round. He didn't acquit himself poorly. It's just Shane Mosley at lightweight was a great fighter. And with Nazarov, Stevie Johnson was really good, but I don't think they'd had a chance against Mosley.
Yeah, no, I just wish those would have happened. But yeah, you're right. Mosley was an excellent fighter. I mean, that's part of how he got his nickname Sugar. I mean, oftentimes you don't get that sort of moniker without exhibiting some high level of skill. And Mosley at that time was, he came up in the West Coast. He was an excellent body puncher, and he kind of got away from that as his career progressed. He started to be more one-dimensional than I think he was at lightweight. But yeah, he was an excellent body puncher, great combination puncher, super fast hands, rock solid chin, which, I mean, he was never stopped on punches in his entire career. But yeah, the John Brown fight, Brown, like you said, he was one of those wily guys too. I mean, he went the distance with a ton of top-notch guys. He ended up having about a 500 record, but he was just crafty, But like you said, he was short. Mosley was just too physically gifted for him, and ended up stopping. But he just kept pounding on him. I don't think it wasn't a serious knockout where one punch knocked him out or anything, but it was just a sustained beating, and the ref
Yeah, because I think Brown after that, I think he went the distance with Stevie Forbes twice. He went the distance with Miguel Cotto, and then HBO stopped showing him, so I couldn't tell you what happened after that.
Yeah,
and before that, I can't remember if it was a lightweight or super featherweight, but I think he went the distance with Corrales too.
Yeah, I had decided to hop on BoxRec to look at it because I know that he fought a ton of people. So he fought Lamar Murphy pretty early in his career. Murphy was a pretty good fighter. I know he was ranked in the top 10 for a short bit, and Murphy was a volume guy. Actually, Lamar Murphy is one of the first fighters I ever remember watching. He fought an old Calvin Grove, Harold Warren, Jesus Chavez, Angel Manfredi, Gabriel Ruelas, who actually stopped in the 8th round.
That's how he got the
Mosley
he
stopped him
shot.
in the 8th.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stopped him in the 8th, fought Mosley, Diego Corrales. So Corrales was after Mosley. Fought Robbie Peden and beat Peden. Wow. Lost to Steve Forbes. Fought Steve Forbes again. Miguel Cotto. Damian Fuller, who was a pretty damn good fighter too. Herman Nagujo. Lamont Peterson. Jesus, man. I mean, this was a guy who wasn't
real
afraid
quick,
to take.
the second Stevie Forbes fight was a lot closer than the judges had it, because I think one of them had it like 118, 110, but I thought that was a really close fight. Because John Brown, for some reason, like between 1998 or 97 and 2002, was one of those guys that was really popular on HBO because he always came to fight, and even if he lost, whoever beat him would have to go through a little bit of hell to do it, usually.
Yeah. Yeah, spot on. I mean, I liked Brown. I mean, he was the kind of fighter that we wish we had at heavyweight right now. I mean, he fought, right?
Right now, he could probably beat Manuel Char. Right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like you. I'm not impressed with Char.
No.
There are a ton of better options out there, but obviously we're not going to.
Now, how about this? What happens if Mosley fights Floyd Mayweather Jr. at lightweight?
Man, I don't know.
I think, even though I don't like him, I'm not a fan of him, but I think he's a hell of a fighter. I think Mayweather would have beat him, and the reason I say that is guys that could box, slick boxers gave him trouble. I mean, Vernon Forrest, of course, Forrest built differently, got the long jab and everything, but another guy that I remember that, beat him, I think, relatively easy once and a close fight the second time was Winky Wright.
Yeah, Wright was significantly less mobile than somebody like Floyd Mayweather was, and
but Winky was really good at giving angles and not getting hit.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and I'm thinking of if Mosley could track Floyd Mayweather down, but that's the thing though is Mayweather. I think he was more stylistically versatile when he was at 135 and below, where
he was an absolute. I think he was an all-time great fighter at 135. At 147, I just think he was really damn good. And no matter what anybody says, I still would have loved to seen him go to 154 and fight a Winky Wright in 2006. I would have loved to have seen him fight Shane Mosley at welterweight. I think this. And this may be a little crazy, but I think Mosley, if you put him at welterweight against Floyd Mayweather around 2006 or so, I think Mosley may have been able to beat him.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough,
I think he would have had a better chance at welterweight than he would have at lightweight.
Why do you think that, though?
I don't know. I just do.
No.
But I think Mayweather was a far superior fighter. And I think Mayweather fought more like the guys I admire from the 70s and 80s, where he would finish a dude. Like everybody always brings up, with Muhammad Ali's greatest performance was Cleveland Williams, and I don't think it was, but that's what everybody says because that's where he looked his best. But when you look at Floyd Mayweather Jr., everybody points to the Diego Corrales fight. And to me, that's where he was at his best. With Shane Mosley, to me, Mosley's best fight is that first fight against De La Hoya.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but I mean, I agree. But I think that's what I think about Mosley, though. It's like looking at what he was able to do against Oscar De La Hoya at 147 in the first fight. To me, it's like, well, what does he do at 135 when he's a little bit quicker, stronger, and more powerful?
Yeah, but this is the thing.
But
at 135, Oscar De La Hoya would have been quicker, stronger, and more powerful.
Right. Well, I'm trying to translate that, however, into a Floyd Mayweather match where.
Yeah, what I'm saying is this: I think Oscar De La Hoya at 135 beats them both.
Man, he was so big for the weight too.
That's what I mean. Because he had those. I mean, he has some big ass shoulders for a lightweight. When you watched him fight, he looked physically.
Top heavy.
Yeah, he looked physically superior to everybody else.
Yeah, but I mean, my thing about Oscar at 135 though, it's like, yeah, I mean, he does. The experience factor at that point. It's like he's still a damn good fighter, but he hasn't really stepped it up too much at that point. But that's tough, because I also think, like, what's Floyd Mayweather going to do? Is he going to, just be on his toes and give a guy angles like he did Diego Corrales the whole night. I mean, that's a tough guy to track down regardless. And I think De La Hoya, man, it's tough. But you might be right that Oscar De La Hoya might have a better chance at beating.
All I know is this: a
Floyd
slowed
Mayweather.
down old version of De La Hoya fought a really close fight with Mayweather, and the problem was he didn't throw enough punches, he didn't throw enough jabs. If you watch him at lightweight, he used a jab, and super featherweight, he used a jab a lot more at the lower weights at 135 than he did when he got higher up. He threw his hands a lot more often.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. Is like Oscar De La Hoya trying to track down Floyd Mayweather. That jab is, I think it's an essential ingredient there, because a guy who moves a lot, part of how you pin him down is just jab him. And the fact that Oscar De La Hoya was big and his hands were fast and, he had good shot selection against the ropes. I think you might be right. I mean, Oscar might be a tougher styles match against Floyd Mayweather, but.
Yeah, and you think about him at lightweight. And, I mean, at lightweight, he didn't stay there real long, but you got to win over Jesse James Leha in 1995. I think Leha beat Azuma Nelson a year or two after that even, didn't he? Wasn't that in 96 or 97? So, and he stopped Leha. He stopped Gennaro Hernandez, and this was a better Hernandez than what Mayweather would fight a few years later. Stopped Rafael Ruelas, who was a really good fighter. Beat John Molina fairly easily in a decision. I think he knocked out Paez, which Paez was in way over his head fighting at lightweight anyways, I think. But I just think when you look at it and you watch that original fight that they actually fought at welterweight, where Floyd's probably in his prime, Oscar's on the way downhill, and still, if Oscar throws more jabs in that fight, he would have beat him because he could track him down with that jab because the jab was his best weapon against Mayweather.
Yeah, and that's my peak version of Oscar De La Hoya. A lot of people, again, we've talked about on the show about how Oscar De La Hoya, he's not a good promoter. I mean, when he started off, a lot of us had high hopes.
I think
because
he's
he
a great
said he was
promoter.
Gonna,
he's bad for boxing, but he's great for himself. And a promoter promotes. He promotes himself, and he puts his fighters in situations where they can't lose.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what the hell?
Yeah,
This guy's
he's
never
doing
lose.
his job.
Yeah.
He's doing his job.
Yeah, it's like a football coach with a team full of guys on steroids, They might all be on steroids, but he's still winning. But, yeah, I think Oscar De La Hoya, people forget that he did. He beats the Molinas, the Ruelas, Hernandez, Leja, beats Chavez twice. And the first time he beat Chavez in 96, people could say Chavez was on the way downhill, but he was 96-1. And then he beat an undefeated Miguel Angel Gonzalez, who was a damn good fighter. And then he beats Pernell Whitaker. And I know people will say Whitaker won the fight. I thought De La Hoya won the fight. I thought it was really close. I don't think it was a robbery. You look at him, he fights Hector Camacho in 97 and almost beat the Mexican out of him. And then he beats Wilfredo Rivera, who was a really good fighter. Beats Chavez again. By then, who the hell cares? He's too old. But then we get to the part where it really strikes me. Ike Quartey and Obakar, both really good fighters. Beats them both. I think the Quartey fight was questionable. Then he fights Felix Trinidad. No matter what anybody says, even if he ran those last 3 rounds, he won the first 9. He just did.
Yep. And that's no, I absolutely agree. I mean, the last time I watched it, I had 9-3 for Oscar De La Hoya. And a lot of people, you watch, I really think that a lot of people get their information from the Legendary Nights shows that they had on HBO, because after those, I started noticing, and again, I wasn't a huge boxing fan when they first started coming on. I mean, I was a real big boxing fan then, but I wasn't really engaged with the community. But that's what I noticed is after the Oscar De La Hoya Felix Trinidad one, a lot of people started repeating things like, oh, well, he gave the last few rounds away. Well, yeah, because he won, 9 of those rounds. I mean, and to be honest with you, even in the last few rounds, I don't remember Felix Trinidad
doing anything.
I don't remember him. That's what they're saying is like, Trinidad was chasing him and trying to land. Well, yeah, because he was desperate. He was so far behind that he had to be, and I don't even remember him landing anything significant in that. And that's exactly why, because of that fight, I honestly don't care about the official decision. Oscar De La Hoya was clearly the better welterweight.
Yeah.
Clearly, to me, it's not even a contest. I mean, De La Hoya, whenever he chose to engage, he was the boss. No doubt about that. So you look at that performance against a guy like, again, I think Trinidad's I think he gets a little too much play at welterweight.
He
Yeah,
gets
he was a
way
big
too
puncher.
much play. He could
He,
punch. He was limited though.
yeah, I mean his footwork. Well, and that's the thing too is you just you watch him try to follow around Oscar De La Hoya, and if I would have been analyzing it deeply back then, I'd have been like, oh well, it's only a matter of time until somebody with a jab and who gives him angles is going to repeat the process or embarrass him, and Winky Wright did that too. But Wright actually just stood right in front of him, took his shit, and jabbed his face off. But I mean, Oscar De La Hoya was clearly the more well-rounded guy, and that's a damn good performance in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, Oscar De La, he was a really damn good fighter. He was a great fighter at his best.
And see, this is the thing. When he fought Mayweather in 2007, the judges were 116, 112, 115, 113, 115, 113 for De La Hoya. I thought the fight was really close. I thought it could have been scored a draw. I think it could have been scored either way. But what people forget is this. Oscar De La Hoya, if I remember, had gotten knocked out by Bernard Hopkins in 2004. He fought once between 2004 and 2007 against a very limited Ricardo Mayorga, who he beats in 2006. So he fights Mayorga after a 2-year layoff. He fights Mayweather an entire another year after that, and still Mayweather barely beats him. And what Mayweather fans got to realize is this. If we go back, 2003, September, Shane Mosley beats him. We fast forward like 9 months. Felix Sturm, no matter what the decision said, beat him. Bernard Hopkins knocked him out, and then he beats Mayorga. So from September 2003 to almost 4 years later, he won one fight against Ricardo Mayorga, lost the other 3, fights Floyd Mayweather Jr., and it's a competitive, close fight.
Yeah, no, I think that's good analysis on your part, Mike. I mean,
it
showed.
My urinalysis came back negative, too.
No Carterine.
Oh, you said analysis. Okay.
Oh, okay.
We started off talking about urinalysis, so what the hell? And then he beats Steve Forbes, and then only like 15 months after fighting Mayweather, he gets bludgeoned by Manny Pacquiao. So that's why I think this. If 2009 Manny Pacquiao fights Floyd Mayweather, I think Manny Pacquiao would have beat him. And I think it's why we never sold a fight. And I also think this. I think both of them were juicing anyway. So Mayweather saying he wasn't going to fight Pacquiao because he wouldn't drug test. I mean, we saw it with the IV when they fought 6 years later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Mayweather wouldn't do the VADA stuff. So, I mean, it's all just stupid. I mean, that fight highlights just the era that we live in now, where you got to milk something for half a decade before you get it, or however long it was. I mean, it was, 6 years? 6 years until we got that fight?
Yeah. At least. I mean, it's 2015. There's a case to be made. That fight could have been made in 2007 or 2008.
Yeah, well, and to be honest with you, neither one of them were at their best at that weight anyways. But we go back to the Tommy Hearns, Ray Leonard example that I like to use, and yeah, I see how people can read into that fight and say, hey, Floyd Mayweather beats him regardless. I don't have any problem with anybody saying that. That's fine. But had we only had Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard the second fight, because they wanted to let it marinate, most people would have said Tommy Hearns would have beat him at any point. And obviously that would not have been the case. So I'm always skeptical when we get into that sort of stuff. Like, yeah, you fight a guy, and he's been starched cold by Juan Manuel Marquez, and you actually, it's just not the same guy. Obviously, it's not. But I mean, Oscar De La Hoya, and the grand scheme of things, you really put things in a perspective and say, I mean, who beats Oscar De La Hoya at 135? I mean, you'd have to be pretty damn good. I mean, you'd have to be a great fighter to beat.
There's a handful of guys that could have beaten Oscar De La Hoya at 135.
Yeah, it's like I don't think Chavez beats him. I don't even think Chavez
would have never beat him. He didn't have it the way they fought. I mean, Chavez was built for him. I mean, he was quicker than Chavez. Put it like this. A guy with quick hands usually gave him trouble, a guy like Meldrick Taylor, but the difference is this, at 135, De La Hoya, I think, was a lot better at giving angles, and I think he hit pretty damn hard at lightweight. I think he was a better all-around fighter than
He hit really
Taylor.
damn hard.
Yeah. I mean, he hit as hard as most anybody that ever fought in that division. I think Oscar De La Hoya, I mean, what about De La Hoya and Duran?
I like thinking about that. Honestly, I do. I think that would have been a hell of a fight.
I've never even thought about that till this moment. But the way De La Hoya could move, as quick as he was and as hard as he punched, I'm not saying it because it'll freak out all the people that think Roberto Duran is an absolute legend. And I'm not saying he's not. He is a legend. He beat Sugar Ray Leonard. He also quit twice, which calls into question a lot of things.
But he beat Leonard, so doesn't that mean he should be able to beat Oscar De La Hoya?
Leonard. Well, it should mean that, but I don't think that Oscar De La Hoya is necessarily going to stand directly in front of him and punch with him. Because if you use that, shouldn't Buster Douglas be able to beat Muhammad Ali, beat Mike Tyson?
I don't follow you on that one.
I know. But you know what? 50% of the people listening to us say, yeah, that's right, because Mike Tyson was every bit as good as Muhammad Ali. That was my point. I was taking a shot at those idiots because I always love when you hear that, Mike Tyson would have beat Muhammad Ali. But really, I think Duran, and you know yourself, a lot of times the big thing is just how did the styles mesh. And I think it would have been an outstanding fight. I wouldn't predict a winner on it. I would tend to go with 73 Duran over Oscar at his best at lightweight, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
It's a tough fight. It's a tough fight. I mean, I'd favor Duran as well, but I'm like you, man. I think that'd be a tough fight. De La Hoya is I mean, just look at the landscape of things. I mean, 135 is, lightweight, because it hasn't always been 135. It was, 133 for Joe Gann's days and whatnot. But you look at the landscape there, and it's a loaded weight division. I mean, you've got three guys up there who are arguably top 10 fighters all time. And
Benny Leonard, Tony Canzoneri, Joe Gans. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Four. Yeah. But, I mean, you look at the styles matchup, like Carlos Ortiz, I think, was a great fighter, but I don't think he beats Oscar De La Hoya.
His style does not. I think that De La Hoya was too quick for him.
Too big, too quick. And of course it is a bit different now, because, the weigh-ins and whatnot. I think Oscar De La Hoya did fight in an era where, he was able to rehydrate afterwards too, or maybe I'm mistaken, but he's a tough fight. I mean, Chavez, Ortiz, I mean, there are a lot of guys that I think he beats down there.
What about Alexis Arguello at lightweight? I think he beats Arguello.
Yeah, I think he does too. I think he's too quick, man.
Yeah, because that always gave, Arguello problems. And the thing is this, the quick thing usually gave our boy Duran problems, and I'm not even talking. I'm talking about at lightweight. I mean, DeJesus, and then you had the Vera Wett brothers, who both Edwin gave him all kind of hell.
Yeah, and I personally, I think that guys who are quick on their feet and quick with their hands, they're just a style problem for just about anybody. You rarely see somebody who's really good at tracking those guys down. So I think they're just tough for anybody. I mean, even Oscar De La Hoya, had some difficulty. I mean, again, I know he was old, but it's just one of those things where it's hard to track down a guy who's a good mover because it's not what you see all the time. I mean, it's a rarity stylistically.
Well, and the question is this: does lightweight have the greatest fighters of all time, or the most? Because when you started off
Henry
3,
Armstrong too.
I gave you 4. Yeah, and what about Ike Williams?
Yep, and actually, I got to give a shout out to Bert Beanstalk or Bienstock. I don't know how you say his name, but this is a guy that I know, and he saw Ike Williams in the flesh. He saw Willie Pep fight, saw Sugar Ray Robinson ringside, saw Marcel Cerdan. He said, I kid you not, he said Ike Williams was the best lightweight he's ever seen, quote unquote, uncuffed. And so anybody who's familiar with Ike Williams' career, know that the mob had a hand in it, and he got screwed. He wasn't able to
Yeah,
maximize
he
his
got
potential.
screwed, but if I remember right, he had wins like over Bo Jack, Bob Montgomery, Larkin, Agnot, Jimmy Carter, Johnny Bratton, and I think he beat Kid Gavilan too, didn't he?
I don't know. I think he lost to
You're
Kid
on
Gavilan.
BoxRec. Look it up. Jeez.
I'm not, but I think he lost to Gavilan at 147. But I can look it up. We can go there and see.
Look it up now. I think
Okay.
I'm right on this. Because I always like reading about Kid Gavilan, but I'm pretty sure Kid Gavilan lost to him at least once.
We'll find out real soon.
And how about this? Because if Bob Day's listening, he's going to bring this one up. You know where I'm going here, right? The Welsh Wizard.
Yeah, Freddie Welsh.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here.
Because Freddie Welsh was good enough to beat Benny Liddard.
Well, I know there's been all sorts of great who fought down there too. I know Jack Britton was down there before he went to welterweight.
Lou
I know
Anders was a lightweight.
Yeah, huge puncher. Who else fought there?
Who's the dude that fought Joe Gans a bunch? Battling Nelson.
Yeah, real tough guy. But you also had Jimmy McLarnin fought down there. Barney Ross fought down there. I mean, is there a better division ever? Shit, I don't know.
I don't think so. What about Jack Blackburn?
Yeah, Jack Blackburn. I mean, Jack Blackburn would have been a Hall of Famer. Sam Langford actually fought Sam Langford beat Joe Gans in a decision at 135, and I think he
fought Jack Blackburn at 135 too.
I think they had a few lightweights or just over the limit fights, but yeah. Blackburn was a damn good fighter too.
And I think Blackburn's the guy that fought Harry Greb also.
Yeah, he did. That was real late in his career, and funny enough, if Blackburn had not been Joe Lewis's trainer, he might have got in. Well, he would have got in as a lightweight and as a fighter, and then you would have had Harry Greb fighting 16 Hall of Famers and beating 15 of them. If you think a modern
dude, I'm telling you, Floyd Mayweather's fought for
getting near that number.
2,700 different titles, and he's fought 70 million guys that have held a portion of a belt. Nobody compares to him.
Okay, so yeah, he fought Bob Montgomery, who was a damn good fighter. Sammy Angot, who is in the Hall of Fame. He actually beat Angot by a split decision. Angot was a tough guy. He took
Angot was a good fighter.
Oh yeah, he took Willie Pep 0. I mean, he was the only guy to beat Willie Pep until the first Sandy Sadler fight. So we got Angot. We got Angot again, another split decision. Jimmy Hatcher, pretty good fighter, lost split decision to Willie. Joyce, who was a real damn good fighter, comes back, beats Joyce, loses to Joyce, beats Juan Zarita, loses to Joyce, loses to Sammy Angot. Wesley Mazzone was a damn good fighter too. Freddie Dawson, good fighter. I mean, these guys didn't play around back then. I mean, there's so many damn names here. Stops Bob Montgomery in the 6th. Stopped Tippy Larkin in the 4th. He did beat Kid Gavilan in February 27th, 1948. I don't have the weights on me. Then he stops Bo Jack in 1948. Later that year, beats Johnny Bratton early in the next year.
If I remember right, I think he fought like a best of 9 with Bojack in his career, because I think his last fight was a win over Bojack, I think.
Well, yeah, and I'm looking at he fought Kid Gavilan 3 times, and the second fight was a majority decision for Kid Gavilan. So, just off face value there, it seems like that was a pretty close one. Stops Johnny Bratton again, fights George Costner. Joe Miceli, he's fighting at I think welterweight by this point. Yeah, beats Bo Jack again, loses to Jimmy Carter, fights Don Williams, Gil Turner, Chuck Davey, Carmen Basilio.
He lost to Chuck Davey, I think, didn't he?
He did, yeah, TKO 5.
Okay. Well, that's when he's getting older, because I think he lost to Basilio too. I don't remember if it was a knockout or a decision.
Yeah, decision.
He lost to him, and then he had the 2 wins or. Was it 2 wins or a loss and a win against Bojack at the end of his career?
It was a draw and a win.
A draw and a win.
I mean, Jesus, dude, what a loaded resume. And again, to think that, we don't really know exactly what happened in some of these fights because the mob was controlling a part of it.
Yeah.
So, And again, if this guy Burt Bienstock tells me that he's the best lightweight you've seen, again, it's not the gospel. No man's opinion is the gospel.
That means he's pretty damn good, though.
Yeah, well, again, when this guy has seen Sugar Ray Robinson, live, and his father actually saw Harry Greb whip the shit out of Gene Tunney in the first fight.
Is this dude still alive?
Yeah, he is.
Why don't we get him on the show?
We should. I think he's barely kicking, but I'll send him
Hell,
a message.
I'm barely
and see if
kicking,
he's
and I'm
on
on this show.
Good point. Hey, you got me there, man.
All right. Well, we started off with a show that seemed like I didn't want to do it because it just gets boring talking about the heavyweights not wanting to fight each other, but we turned into almost an hour, Jeremiah.
Shit, man. Well, you get us on the old topics when there's actually,
John
something
Brown
to
and
give.
Oscar De La Hoya, you would never think would lead to like a 35-minute conversation.
Nope.
But it did.
We did it. We did it.
All right. I want to tell everybody to make sure you go to iHeartRadio, any place where you can like and comment our show. Make sure you do. Share our show with your friends. Tell everybody about it. If you have any questions for me or Jeremiah, you can get me at Grilling Truth on Twitter. You can get Jeremiah at TGTN Boxing. So make sure if you have any questions, you can send them there. I want to remind everybody that tomorrow at noon we'll be back with Survive in Advance with me, Steve Risley, and we will have Bobby Sheridan to talk a little NBA playoffs, and then we'll have Sam McGinnis on to talk a little NHL playoffs, or NHL hockey reporter. At 2 o'clock, we'll have the Sheridan Report again, where me and Bobby will give you the top plays of the day. And then tomorrow night, me and Jeremiah will be right back here at the same time, 11 o'clock Eastern, to do a little Inside Boxing Daily. Hopefully we'll have some better news or more interesting news, or maybe we can see if we can get Manuel Char on the phone, or Frezekindo. That would be great, Jeremiah. Your favorite's Frezekindo.
Yeah, I don't mind doing Okendo. Fuck Char, though.
I want Char then, because I'm German like Char, but you must not be a
that
real
fucker's
German.
as bad as... Yeah.
He's the first German heavyweight championship since Max Schmeling, if you didn't know, Jeremiah.
That dude ain't German.
Yeah, his name's Manuel. Shouldn't that mean he's like Mexican or something?
Dude, his name's Char. I think he's from Syria or something.
Yeah, whatever. He's a Mexican from Syria. All right, guys, we're going to wrap the show up. Remember, you can hear all of our shows anywhere you hear podcasts, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. I think that's about it, Jeremiah. Can you think of any place else you can hear us? But you can hear us anywhere. So, I forgot to bring up our sponsor, Jeremiah. Now I'm getting a little punchy. It's almost midnight here. Well, it is midnight. MyBookie.ag, Retired Boxers Foundation. Make sure you go check them out. So, for Jeremiah Preisser, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.